Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Hall. I'm a chiropractor and I work at Non-Surgical Medical Group with Dr. Kelsey C. Peterson, a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, and Carmen Marissa Cordes, a master's in physical therapy. I have been remiss. Thanks to patient PC, I am finally getting to videotaping a stream of exercises that will constitute a great head-to-toe stretch program for anyone who's so interested. If you wake up in the morning stiff, get this done. Always works better with a warm body. A warm body stretches better than a cold body. Take at least 5 minutes, max 15 to warm up. Walk in place, do jacks, stationary bicycle, elliptical. My wife and I like a Max Trainer by Bowflex. It's a great piece of equipment. So we're going to begin this. There are approximately 16 transitions, if you will, through the entire head-to-toe stretching ritual. 5 through the standing routine, and that would make 11 through the floor routine. I will pull each of these out so you can look at them individually and not have to go through the whole tape for this purpose, but I want you to see and feel the flow of this. So we begin, and I have a cheat sheet here. So we begin, and I have to create a name for these things. I learned this in a Bikram yoga class. We start with a good stretch, axial stretch for the lower back, nice oxygen filling, lung opening stretch, and also a safe stretch for the lower neck in something we call butterfly stretch of trunk and neck. Butterfly stretch of trunk and neck. Fingers are interlaced. You can't see it, but my feet are together. Fist underneath the chin, elbows are together. That's how we start. We take a deep breath in. As we raise up our elbows higher and higher, and as I'm raising up my elbows, I am distracting my trunk from my pelvis. Higher and higher, so it's a good axial stretch of the lower back. And as I breathe out, I'm pushing my head back. Now my chin is pushing towards my hands, but we're letting the hands and the arms win until the elbows connect, touch. And as we breathe in, we bring the head back down and begin again. Now I'm going to do this from a side view. As I breathe out, so you see how it should be. And over time, the forearms get closer and closer to parallel with the ground. Now in Bikram yoga, they're real big on making that sound. I don't do that so much. Breathe in and out. 8 of those is a great initial warm-up for what else is going to be occurring. After that, butterfly stretch of the trunk and neck. We do what's called an axial stretch of the lower back with left and right movement. The hands are interlocked and inverted. So this is the axial stretch of the lumbar spine, the lower back. Hands once again, fingers are interlaced. Invert as such. Bring them straight up over the head and reach. Work to get that body longer. You're going to wiggle this a little bit to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. Every time you go by the middle, you get longer. Forgive the fact that my arms and my feet are out of the picture, but we're just doing this stream of conscious and as quick as we get it done. Good. So I will typically do 8 of these where it's 1. Breathe in and breathe out as you lean down. 2. Sorry, that's 1. 1 to each side. 2 to each side. Get longer. Now, what's very common in this axial stretch of the lumbar spine is to turn your body this way to get more. That is, we're rotating around and bringing the lower shoulder back. You want to bring it forward. If you do that, you will instantly feel a bigger stretch from your hips all the way up to your wrist. Good. And out. So 7 each side. And on the 8th one, that's when you want to hang out. 20, max 30 seconds for a good stretch. Clean it up. Bring the Bring the biceps, that is the arm, back around ear level. Make certain that elbows are locked and you're just bringing it down and letting it float more and more, and keep that lower shoulder out in front. And through. And down. After that, our next stretch exercise, we go into what we call shoulder rolls. I've it labeled as 6-inch lateral, this is out to the side, shoulder roll, rolls forward and backwards with, I like knee raises alternating for this reason. I don't like thinking about shoulders that are burning. By the way, this is the motion from a side view. It looks like this. 6-inch rolls. Ideally, shoulders way back. That is, they're back far enough to where they are level with even with your body, not out in front like that. You may have shoulder problems, and this may bring you some pain, so you bring it down until you can do it without sharp pain. When you're getting it done properly, you're feeling a good burn, a heaviness in the shoulders. Now, when you begin to feel the burn, you don't want to think about the burn. And by the way, we're not waving hands, nothing against the Pope, but this is not what it's about. It's about shoulders. All the motion comes from the shoulders. You are effectively wringing out the rotator cuff tendons. The rotator cuff is made up of 4 tendons that operate these arms. This is very flexible, which makes it, the joint of the shoulder is very flexible, has a tendency for instability because of that. But rather than thinking about the shoulders, we're going to think about our knees. From a side view, it looks like this. Bring it up. Bring it up. Go up as high as you can. That may be 6 inches off the ground, and that is fine. And what we count are the knee raises. So this would be 1, 1, 2, 2. Now, depending on where you are, you may say, okay, I'm going to get 4 of those on each side with the shoulders rolling forward like this. I typically do 16, and then I stop. Flip the palms face up and go backwards. 6-inch rolls. You feel the difference? You really feel this one. Again, as those shoulders are getting heavy, burning even a little bit, you're getting it done. And 1, 1, 2, 2. So you see I'm doing 2 rolls for every knee raise. And you can do the math on how many you're doing. Now, the knee raises aren't just for distraction. It's a great advancement for your proprioceptors, that is your balance from foot to brain. You could even do this with your eyes closed at some point in time. Don't do it if you tip over. But in addition to this, you're engaging core. So you want to think about tightening up the core each time you raise that up. Each time you raise that up. Good. So 16 of those each side, or however many you do. So with shoulders warm now, we have the privilege of taking the shoulder through full range of motion with much less effort, fewer kinks. And this next transition is into the exercise we call full range of motion, shoulder rolls forward and backwards. Start with palms facing one another, hands to your side, and then you bring your hands back, and now when they're back, your hands are pointing, your palms are facing forward, and you're taking yourself through a full range of shoulder motion slowly. And when you get overhead, the palms, the backs of your hand are together, or the palms are facing outward, almost like a butterfly stroke in swimming. And once you feel the kinks are out, then you can roll into a momentum-driven shoulder roll. Now, this feels so good. I would never throw a ball ever without doing this first. When my arms go back, I'm punching my chest out forward, so I get greater range of motion going backwards with the shoulders. I like multiples of 8. You can do 8, you can do 16, you can do 32. Maybe some of you are going to do 64. And stop. Now we go backwards. Start with palms facing out. Bring the back of the hands together, overhead, and now again the palms are facing forward, and turn them again towards, so the hands are facing, the palms are facing out, the hands are back to back, and take yourself through that backward motion. Some denomination of 8. This is a great warm-up for the next stretch, which is of the cervical spine, the last one from a standing position. Get those shoulders nice and warm. And done. So, the next stretch is cervical stretches and all 6 range of motion. The vertebral joints in the spine, the 7 cervical vertebra, the 12 thoracic, and the 5 lumbar, typically, some have 6, form joints with one another. They have 6 ranges of motion: forward and backward motion, what we call flexion, extension, left and right side bending, left and right rotation, and that's it. You need to take yourself through full range of motion. Multiple times a day is great, at least once a day. So we start out with flexion and extension. I'm going to do this from a side view so you can see it better. Hands are going to be turned under and palms facing out, then put the palms face together. As you lean forward and push your hands together, you can actually find places between your shoulder blades all the way up to the base of the neck to where you can feel a good stretch. I like dynamic stretches. I like moving when I'm stretching as much as is possible. So flexion is forward, chin to chest best you can. Now, palms face forward, squeeze shoulder blades together like you're working to pinch a pencil between your shoulder blades. When you do that, you create a channel through which the neck can travel backwards into extension. So forward, backward, flexion, extension. If you're paying attention, I'm alternating just for balance sake. My hands go both directions, alternating 1, 2, 1, 2. So we can get 8 of these in pretty readily. Loosen the neck up nicely. Flexion and extension. Many of you may recognize this as something I probably do 500 times a day, dozens of times a day as a posture reset, because life is forward. That extension of the neck is going to be the most critical thing to avoid the hunching over as we get older. So after doing 8 each direction, we're going to do the side bends. Now, the first side bend, going straight into it, sometimes there's kinks still. We want to work it out. Always drop your head down first to unwind all the muscle, the paraspinal muscle groups, the trap, levator, scap, and roll your ear towards your shoulder. I grab onto my thighs so I'm not pulling my shoulders up so much. I'm really working to bring my head down. And I want you to feel the opposite side stretch. The goal isn't to just get down there, and some people crack and pop their neck this way, not in their best interest. Just lay your head out to feel a good stretch on that opposite side. Rolling it out, ear to shoulder and down. When you've done that the first time, then you can go straight. Left to right. We'll call this right because that's what your perspective is. And down. 8 each direction. Balance things out again with 1 flexion, extension, stretch. Now, plant your hands on your bum. So that kind of pulls the shoulders back. Then you pick a spot behind you best you can, as far as you can go, and look it. One of these directions is going to be tougher than the other. Mine is going this direction. My right, your left. And we do that 8 times. And just enjoy what it feels like to move. Good. You notice I'm backtracking. I just went to the side one and now finish with a big flexion and extension. When you extend, this is very critical. You really want to make your tummy muscles strong. If core is engaged, and core is a lot more than tummy muscles, but we'll just speak about abdominal muscles as if we're engaging core. Core is made up of between 30 and 40 muscles, depending on who you're speaking to. Now, go ahead and turn that off, sweetheart. Tell you, this is not scripted. In any event, when core is engaged, it stabilizes the lumbar spine, and when I come back into that extension, I'm moving my middle back and my lower neck, not my lumbar spine. Okay, we go to the floor. So we finished our standing routine with our cervical stretches, and now we're moving to the floor. The first thing you get to do is a simple child's pose, prayer pose. You can call it what you want, but I'll walk you through how I do it, and I need it desperately right now. Just to make this more authentic, I did not stretch this morning for this very purpose. So we go to the knees, bring the knees together, toes together, heels out. So it'll leave room for your hips to slide in there. Now, some people are very flexible at the knees, and that keeping your hips back to the heels is not going to be much of a difficulty, but it is for probably more people than not. You're going to walk those hands out as far as you can, flat on the mat or the ground, whatever you're using. The goal is to be laying out your chest onto your thighs, and if you don't touch, that's okay. You always get 100% of the benefit if you feel a good stretch. This is going to be compressive for the hips, and that's a good thing, and it's going to be distractive to the lower back. So it's another axial stretch. The goal over time is to reach and get your chin down to the mat as you're reaching out. The further out you reach, the bigger the stretch of the lower back. I'll slide back a little bit. Good. So hang out here for a while, tightening your abdominal muscles, still to protect your lower back while you're distracting the lumbar spine. Some of you may be dealing with some difficulty in the shoulders. This is a great shoulder stretch if you can do it slowly, easily, and without sharp tearing pain. If you feel the sharp tearing pain, back off a little bit. Bring the head up a little higher. This will be complete reasonably in 20 to 30 seconds. Hang out here for a minute if you're so inclined. Now, I like to do a compressive stretch for the knees. Forgive the focus, I'm cutting my head off, I'm sure. But again, there are people that just lay their backs flat on the ground. My knees don't go that far, but my toes are together, my heels are apart, my hips are between, and I'm working just to compress the knees. The compression of the knees is like wringing out that cartilage in the knees, the meniscus. Work to keep the knees together best you can. Hang out here for 20 seconds or so. Next one. Next is a plank. For those of you that don't know what planks are suspending your body either from your elbows, your hands, your feet, or your knees. We're going to go, if possible, from the elbows and the feet, and you lay your body up like this, so you're supporting yourself. For those of you that aren't quite here, you can bring it down to the knees. The goal is to put as little pressure into the knees as is necessary to handle this. Now, sit-ups and crunches use about 60% max of core. Planks use 100%. So this is all about core stabilization of your lumbar spine, your lower back. But in this position, you are working your core, your abdominal muscles safely. I like to get the entire span of core involved, so we roll and we touch our hip. We roll and we touch our hip. Touch, 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 touch. Now, You can count however many you want. I like denominations of 8. I do 64 of these each side. And it is one of, if I only had 2, max 3 stretches, exercise I could do, this would be one of them, for how great it loosens up the lower back safely. Once complete with that, still in the plank position, we're going to do an up and down, let's see what I call it, rotating up and down plank. So we did our rotating up and down plank. It's up, bending right at the waist, and down. Up and down. Up and down. Up and down. Now, when you start to feel your groin stressing, focus on your abdominal area. The abdominal area has to be what operates this, or you're stressing what we call the hip flexors, which is a strain on the low back. We do 64 of these, do 8 of these, do 16, do whatever you can do. Your prize after the planking is another child's pose. You should feel a bit looser. Keep the knees together. Big stretch of the lower back, shoulders, compression on the hips. And from here, we're going to go into what we call cat cows. This is a cat back. This is a cow back. I would stress with these, keep your core engaged. If the core is not engaged, you're hyperextending your low back, and we don't want you to do that. So breathe in deep as you create a cow. Every joint in the middle back, what we call the thoracic spine, should be extending. Elbows are locked. Shoulders are directly over wrists. Hips are a little bit in front of where the knees are for some room to extend. And as you breathe out, big parachute, cat back. You can do 32 of these. Moving every joint in the spine. Once complete with the cat cows, we're going to stretch our calf muscles. Now the calves are made up of 2 muscle groups. That chicken breast looking double chicken breast in the back there, outside of the calf, we call the gastrocnemius. That crosses 2 joints, the knee and the ankle. There's something underneath, it's called the soleus. That crosses only the ankle joint. We're going to stretch both those, very critical. So we go onto our hands and push our heels down. I'm out of the picture, aren't I? A bit?
I mean,
we get the idea, right? So we're going to do one at a time. So it's heel down best you can. You may be off the ground, that's okay. And these can be performed against the counter as well. The key to stretching out the gastrocnemius, the first one is locking the knee, pushing the heel down, and then leaning forward till you feel a good stretch of that calf muscle. Hold for 30 seconds. Minimum 20 seconds, ideally 30. When that time is complete, back up a little bit with your rear, bend the knee and push your shin forward, keeping the heel down. You'll feel it in the Achilles tendon. That is stretching out the soleus. Now the beauty of these stretches, I'm going to switch to the other side, gastrocnemius, lock knee, heel down, unlock knee, heel down. Sometimes I'll push my other leg to get that going further forward. The beauty of these is not just stretching out the calves. The calf muscles are one structure with a plantar fascia, that tissue on the bottom of the foot that can hurt so much. Get these stretches in 4 or 5 times a day against the counter even,
That'll take you 2 minutes every time you do it, 30 seconds each muscle, 2 muscles per leg, times 2 legs. When you do this, your plantar fasciitis has a high tendency to go away. Good. Go from here into a ball, and let's see if I'm on track. Yeah, I call this my cannonball stretch. You remember jumping in the pool as a kid, doing the cannonball? So, feet are together, knees are bent. You're gonna work to wrap around your arms around the legs. Now, most will have difficulties with balance. Keep your hands on the ground. Just tighten your tummy muscles and work to bring your chin as low, as close to your chest as you can, and your head towards your knees. If you do this grabbing on, you work to grab the elbows. Tighten your tummy muscles, you feel a good stretch from your sacrum all the way up your spine to the base of your skull. And it leads nicely, and we switch arms, we like balance. After the cannonball stretch, it leads into a stretch of the hamstrings. So, coming out of the cannonball, we're primed to stretch the hamstrings in a dynamic way. I like dynamic stretches. So, there's going to be a motion associated with this, ergo the word dynamic. Planting the hands on the floor, if possible, you're going to raise up until your knees are locked and bring your waist towards your thighs. Now, if you're not stretched out enough yet with the hamstrings to do that, get some type of block. There's yoga blocks, there's big old dictionaries, there's foam rolls. You can just come to that, but you do want to be knees locked out, however far you can bring your hands down to perform this hamstring stretch. Engaging the core, engaging your abdominal muscles, critical to protect your lower back in this stretch, and I cannot stress that enough. So, you bring your hands towards your feet, fingers are facing forward, and it's 1. Now you want to keep pressure into your hands when you're coming down and going back up, and you're working to get the head onto the knees best you can. The pressure you put into the hands is going to come off the knees. When you go past a 90-degree angle with the knees, they become more susceptible to injury. So keep your hands pressured up so that there's pressure off the knees. And that's 2. 3, 4, 5. You go all the way to 16 on this one. Then you take your hands and you turn them backwards. Point your fingers backwards and do 16 more. Each time you come up, you can bring your chest towards your thighs and feel a nice little stretch in those hamstrings. Get them long. 2, 3, 4, and all the way to 16. And your prize after that is going back to cat-cows. So I'm going to breathe in as I extend my middle back backwards, engaging the core, and breathe out. Big cat back, big parachute. Shoulders over wrists, hips just a little bit in front of knees. Work on moving every joint in that thoracic spine or the middle back. So after that cat-cow, we're going to go into a full extension stretch of the thoracic spine. And it's going to be, once again, with core engaged to the point where you feel like you're tucking your pelvis under. So it looks like this. You're setting yourself up with shoulders directly under, wrists directly under shoulders. Tops of your feet are flat on the mat or the ground, you're tucking your pelvis under and then working to extend your middle back as much as possible. You'll feel a good extension stretch. Now we live in the upright position, so much of our stretching has been in the forward flex position. This is to bring ourselves back up to the land of bipeds, people that walk on 2 feet. Animals that walk on 2 feet. Here we are. I lift up the knees to get a bigger stretch. Hold for 20 or 30 max seconds. Go into a child's pose. Work to keep everything the same except bring your knees together. Well, they were together before this, aren't they? Big extension stretch. We'll get 3 of these. Finish up. Big pelvis tucked under. Elbows are locked. Pressure on your hands should be right through here. If the pressure's through your thumb and index finger, you're going to be protective of your wrist. And finish. So, coming out of the cobra stretch of the middle back, the extension stretch of the middle back, we finish up with hip flexor stretches. The hip flexor is the groin muscle, clinically known as the iliopsoas. It attaches from the front of the thigh, front inside of the thigh, all the way up to the front of the lumbar spine. You want those stretched so your low back isn't stressed. A lot of what we do is to get those muscles long, and sitting obviously gets them short, because if your knees flexed all day, that muscle is very, very short. So, how you handle a hip flexor stretch is to get on one knee, placing the opposite foot forward far enough that when you lean forward, your knee does not go in front of your ankle. Your foot is going to be, forgive me for not having it in the line of view, but your toes are going to be cocked under so that you can stand up on that toe if you need to. Interlace your fingers, invert your hands, bring them up over your head like this, and lean down in. Now you can make this the end of it, or you can pick that back knee up, lock it out, push your heel backwards, and count 5. Real easy control. It's about working balance while you're stretching right there, that iliopsoas, that groin muscle. So we'll call that 4 and 5. Go to the opposite knee. Foot ready to get up on with the toe turned under. That front foot far enough forward so when I push forward, the knee is not in front of the ankle. Feel the big stretch. Up, down. Lock the back knee, push the heel backwards. You'll feel a better stretch in that iliopsoas. So, and when you're done, hold that stretch for a bit on each side. You want to feel that groin stretching until it just doesn't hurt as much. And that's usually when we sense a release of the muscle. So that's the last one. I typically like to get up with another cannonball stretch of the hamstrings. And that's it. As I might have mentioned, there's other exercises, stretches on this YouTube site. They're all called out by name. Thanks for watching.